Something like, do I want to suffer or not?
Okay, yeah, that's one of the ways to ask it. Right.
Okay, so I guess the first one is like your response last time to pain was basically that it's not my pain and why should I care? But I still have a tendency to get drawn into it, and sometimes it seems like it's too strong to ignore. Like I would get distracted by the pain, or I would get suffering from the pain, and I would try to come back to the breath and like feel satisfaction. But like there would be no period of satisfaction. It would already be back to like not liking the pain anymore again.
You're talking about, uh, I don't have any reference other than the word pain. Can you tell me a bit of what you're talking about?
Like physical location or how it feels.
When, where, why, how, all of that kind of newspaper stuff.
Okay, so typically the one that bothers me the most mentally would be on the back of my legs, like where I sit.
Okay.
And that developed, I think, yeah, a while ago when like I just determined for some reason that like sitting was bad for me. And I assumed like I was basically tightening the muscles because I was stressed out. Like if I would sit for too long, I'd be like, oh my God, I need to get up and like the sitting is bad for me, that type of stuff. And then also the worrying about the pain causes the muscles to tense up as well and like cause more pain. And it seems like the only way to actually get rid of the pain is to stop resisting it. And it seems like that actually allows the muscle to relax and stop causing pain.
Okay. Well, now that you figured that out, what's your question?
Yeah, I mean the problem is it's just like I keep trying over and over, and I get kind of discouraged sometimes with not being okay with the pain, and it feels like it's permanent and there's no solution.
And yet you're actually doing things that are causing this pain
Right.
at the grossest level by sitting, like sitting in a certain posture. You're talking about sitting in the chair, sitting on the floor, sitting on a cushion. Please help me.
No, I mean it can be anything. Like it can be in my feet too. Like if I'm standing, I'll have pain in my feet. It's just like any situation where I'm subject to gravity, like I will start worrying that I'm going to injure myself or something like that.
Uh,
It's a lot of
okay.
neuroticism, I know.
Um, so this is not a particular sitting posture that you're in that this leg pain occurs. Or is there a particular kind of sitting posture that you're in when it's most frequent or most likely to occur or most likely to become noticeable?
Lying down position is the best to avoid it.
Oh, okay. Is the pain about equal in both legs?
Right one is stronger.
Could this be a strong, intense, acute pain, like a Charlie horse or a muscle spasm? Can you describe the pain?
Oh no, no, it's not acute. It's chronic. Like I would be on an airplane ride and it would happen. Like I would have the pain while I was resisting it, but if I could stop resisting it, it would go away. But the point is, while I was resisting it, I mean, it could last like more.
And so, if, for instance, if you're sitting on an airplane, what could you do that would help relax those muscles? For instance, wiggling your feet, moving your toes, stretching the feet as far as you could, raising or pointing your heels down and curling your toes to stretch those muscles out really strongly? Would that be of any assistance?
Yeah, that actually, I didn't notice that on the last airplane ride, that like rotating my ankle and moving my feet was helping reduce pain there. The only problem with like the leg pain, it comes up like so quickly that like I can't just stand up. Well, I mean I could, but I would have to stand up like every 5 minutes or something like that.
Have you talked to this with a medical doctor?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Went to many visits. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on, but yeah, I mean at this point it's pretty stress induced basically.
Have you practiced yoga?
I have not.
Okay, that might be something, because in fact the very stretching exercise that I was mentioning a moment ago is a yoga.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, and so that may be something that you might try to get
Are you
those
talking?
things.
Are you talking about the yoga that basically like Western culture kind of
Yep.
transformed from the original yoga?
Well, I would say that the major differences have to do with how much breathing do they do. And the more breathing that they concentrate on, the better the yoga will be. That all about pranayama and anapanasati, they're so interrelated. I know many, many monks here in Thailand that do yoga, but they almost always have to do it in seclusion or in privacy, because there's such a cultural issue about dancing or making body
Okay.
movements. So things like Tai Chi and yoga, and that is generally frowned upon by the villagers who don't know what the heck's going on. But other than that, yeah, yoga is widespread in Thailand.
So you mentioned breathing was a key aspect of that. Like, why not just do meditation to solve the problem instead of heading in the physical aspect?
Well, your first question is about a physical aspect.
Right.
That's why. Is because sitting meditation is not going to do much good for that unless you're willing to experiment with it. Because in fact, in the Goenka method, have you ever heard of Goenka?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So you perhaps have heard about their strong determination sittings.
Yes.
Have you ever done that?
I well, can you define it precisely?
1 hour, not opening your hands, not opening your eyes, and not opening your legs is the classical definition.
That seems to be like every meditation I do.
Okay. So in
Like
that
if you're
regard,
saying 1 hour with no movement?
yeah. Well, no, you can, I didn't say no movement. I said specifically not opening the eyes, not opening the hands, and not opening the legs. But one of the kinds of movements that really is valuable is keep straightening the back. Make sure that you're sitting correctly.
Yeah, I've
So that,
noticed a tendency for me to slump during meditation.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So it is valuable to correct that. I always thought it was just like just do the breathing and whatever the body does, like let it do its thing.
Well, yes, but by slumping, you're inviting the body into being in pain. Here's a clear issue about it is that if you're sitting up straight, then the gravity is pulling you downward. But if you're leaning over like this, now gravity is pulling you this way. And not only is the gravity pulling it down like that, but now you have to have a whole new set of muscles just to hold up. Otherwise, you're going to fall all the way over.
Right.
Okay. So sitting up straight ultimately takes the least amount of effort. And whenever we start to lean, we say, all right, never mind. I'm going to come back and sit up straight again. That exercise also helps relax the legs. Now, normally when people have big leg pains, they normally have it in the big muscles, especially the ligaments that are tied into the groin area. Those inner thigh muscles that have big ligaments in there, that's the place where people have leg pain. But basically what's going on is that their legs are not actually relaxed and sitting down because they've got that tension built up. My favorite example, by the way, and I hadn't talked about this in years, but there was an old Tic Tac commercial years ago that somehow equated meditation with having a Tic Tac. But the image that they used was just some actress off the street. And they set her down to sit in meditation. And while they were filming her, you could see her legs begin to shake. And they were way raised. I mean, this model who did that commercial had absolutely no sitting experience at all. This is basically the first time she'd ever sat down like that. And that was so funny because it was a nationwide commercial in the United States, and I don't know how many people missed that. They would just think that those legs should be up in the air. Okay, so part of the relaxation of the legs is also continuing to straighten the back because that ligament system has gone all the way up. That's why yoga is so useful, is because it helps stretch out all of those ligaments. They say, in fact, that yoga got started in caves where the monks were sitting there in meditation, and the way that they would stretch themselves, and instead of having to climb out of the cave or take a walk or anything, because caves often are inhabited with all kinds of things, especially cobras like them. So once you get into a cave, you want to kind of stay there. And so that's the idea of where yoga got started. And a lot of yoga has to do with breathing. And the word anapana and pranayama are the same word. One's in Sanskrit and the other one's in Pali, but it's the same practice out of India at those same times. It's amazing how integral Buddhism actually was, because all of the people who came to be a student to the Buddha came from all of these other practices. So it was like Buddhism was an eclectic collection of all kinds of traditions and practices that people brought together. And what Buddha put together with that was the practice of anapanasati, which gave us the ability to see directly into how the mind works with paticca samuppada. And all of that sitting postures and everything like that was done simply because that's an easy way to sit. If you're going to sit on the ground. People do it in Thailand all the time. I've got several young females mostly. I've got a 19-year-old and another 17-year-old, but when the 17-year-old was 13, I could still see that. These women, Thai women, will sit and eat their food on the floor sitting in the lotus posture, the full lotus posture. Why are they doing that? Not just because they can, but it's because it's a very stable, easy posture to sit in with the legs all bound together like that, so that they can reach out and grab that piece of food or get that plate or whatever like that. There's a lot of mobility. It's a very stable posture. where other postures are not nearly so stable. And so it's a very common posture. The lotus posture is common in Thailand, but in the West, children are yanked off the floor when they're babes and put into a high chair, never the ground to meet again. And so the Asians naturally stay cultivated into using postures that Westerners don't have. That's why at the beginning of our talk, I was curious about, is this actually meditation related or not? But the way that you're describing it is, no, this is a physiological thing. And I would suggest that doing some kind of exercise, and yoga would be the one to go with, to get those muscles all straightened out, to get those ligaments all fixed up, primarily so that you can sit for long periods of time without the fear. Okay, so now let's change this to the chapter, or go to the next chapter, or flip the coin, or whatever like that, and look at the other side. And that is, why would an ordinary, let us say, young woman like the one that we were talking about in the Tic Tac commercial, and not those same women's age here in Thailand, who those women can sit naturally in the lotus posture to where this girl couldn't hardly even get her knees to the ground. You take that one that can't get her knees to the ground and put her in a Vipassana retreat with Goenka, and by day 7 or 8, they're expecting to be able to keep the legs still for an hour. She's going to be in great pain. But the pain is going to be from the knee, and in part of the knees. In fact, knees are a really big issue. But the issue with the knee is not necessarily the knee, it's the ligaments, because all ligaments join together at the knee, both the ligaments going down the leg, which are the ones that you're working with, and the ligaments that go up the leg, which is where most meditation students have a lot of pain. They begin to hurt their knees. Okay. And it's because of the knees being connected to both sides that I'm wanting to mention this to you, so that you can make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because meditators, traditionally Western meditators, have a habit of, and I've got nearly a long list. The last time I remembered, there was like 5 that I could name by name of monks or seasoned meditators who cannot sit on the floor anymore due to leg pain. Vila Maramsu was one, or is one. Kantipalo, an Australian, he's no longer in the robes, but many monks ruined their legs. Oh, another one, Subato. He's an Achan. He's in Malaysia, but he's very, very shy about sitting around with other monks because he can't sit with the other monks. Too painful. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't hurt yourself. These monks are hurting themselves because they're working too hard, they're sitting too long, they're not taking it easy, and that the Goenka method actually invites that to happen. However,
Yeah.
there are advantages to it, up to a point. And I suppose that up to a point then cannot be said for the entire group, but rather it can be said that an individual will have a range of time of how long is the right way to sit. Maybe an hour might do it, but then 2 hours might be too much. The question is, what is everyone's limit? And that we should not try to push that limit or go over it, because the sitting meditation is not the real object of what we're doing anyway. That in fact, here's a question for you. If you're able to sit 1 or 2 hours a day, then 2 hours a day means that for the rest of the day, that's 22 hours. that you're not meditating, which means you're going back into all of the old habits. So you got 22 hours of old bad habits and 2 hours of, I'm not quite sure we got exactly the right habit going here or not, because after all, I'm dealing with all of this pain. And now that's where we're left. What we need to do is find a way of taking the benefits that we're getting from meditation and putting it out into the world. But there are benefits, in fact, for sitting long periods of time for the beginning meditator to make a profound mental change. And it looks like that you're on the cusp of making that. Goenka talks about it in the sense that the muscle sensation is not the pain. Air intense how that sensation is, the sensation is not the pain. The pain is the intensity with which we don't like it.
Yes. I understand. Yeah, I definitely understand that part.
And that the part of the don't liking it is based in fear. Oh, there it goes again. Oh, woe is me. Oh, I'll have to keep putting up with this. Oh, this is too much. So when we add fear to the not liking, that's 2 out of 3. Now we're deeply into what I would call suffering or dukkha. But we're also taking a position of being a victim. And so Goenka talks about it in the sense of look at that pain, notice it. There's a saying that we can do, we can play with it, that I like to call hide and seek. Have you ever heard of the little game that the kids play called hide and seek?
That who plays?
Hide and seek. That one child
Yeah,
will
I know that
hide
game,
and the other one has to go look for him. Right, hide and seek. Well, we can do that with this area of sensation that we are calling pain. First, we're going to seek it out. We're going to look for it. We're going to try to define it exactly where it is. Try to get its limits. Try to chase it down to where does it hurt the very, very most? Where is the central point? Does it have a point and radiates out? Or is it a whole area that's in pain? Or does it feel like it's really, really tight? What is the nature of this pain? We begin to look at it, but we look at it objectively rather than I hate it so much. Now, there is, if it's a kind of Charlie horse or something that's very intense pain, sometimes getting the leg to relax, getting the muscle to relax by moving it up and down, getting the, sometimes the leg will lock up so much that the foot cannot be moved easy, even to the point that you have to put the foot firmly down on the front part of the foot and then force the knee downwards so that the heel will finally land, because the ligaments have just gotten the leg all straightened out like that. And so you have to actually put it like this and then start to push it down so that that muscle will finally become unrelaxed. But other than that kind of very intense and acute pain, the other way of doing it is to say, okay, if I can't do anything immediately to get that body part, that muscle to relax, then let's look at it. Let's inspect it. Let's take a good close look at it. Let's seek it out, identify it, get its range, get its depths. How deep into the skin is it? How far down does it go? Can I actually define it by looking at my own memory of Gray's Anatomy to see what those big muscles look like and see if I can identify that through feeling to get a really good close experience of what is it that's actually hurting in there. After you've gotten a really good close look at it, the next thing to do is to say, okay, if you're going to continue to pain, I've already had a good close look at you. Now I'm not going to watch you anymore. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to push you right out of the mind as if you were nothing but a hindrance, nothing but a feeling, because actually I don't really care about the sensation. What I care about is the fact that I don't like it, and that I'm not liking it. That's a hindrance. And so we begin to ignore it for a while, and we go back and we look at other body parts. We watch the breathing. If you want, you can listen to the birds sing and the flowers bloom and all kinds of things are happening. It's a really delightful world that we live in, with or without that leg pain. And so we begin to take a deeper attitude, in the sense is, not only is it that I don't like it, but I'm the champion here. That leg pain is not my master. I am not the victim to that pain. I'm the champion. And one of the things that champion strong mind can do is absolutely ignore that pain. And after we get into that for a little while, then we say, okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to take another close, deep look at it. Maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes later, you go back and you look at it again. You see if you can maneuver it, twist it around, get the ligaments straightened out and whatnot. And if that doesn't solve it, then now the time to do is inspect it again. Take a really close, deep look at it. What's its extent? How deep does it go? Where is it more intense than others? One of the things, by the way, that the students will say is, hey, it's almost like chasing it. That if I'm looking here, it's over there. I go over there to look, and it's back over there again. And I wind up going back and forth, chasing the pain. I know it's in this area, but I can't quite figure out exactly where it is. But wherever I'm actually looking, it's not there. It's always someplace else. So by beginning to expand our area of view, we begin to chase the pain away. And this is not magic, because there's something going on in there that prevents us from actually being in the state of pain about a place where we're actually looking. There is merely sensation, and sensation is not nearly as much as pain is. Pain is always someplace else where we're not looking. And so screen is frozen. I think we just had a power outage. Oh, now I see movement. Okay, you're back.
Hi.
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can. Yes, you were frozen for a moment. Where were we when?
Hi. I uh, go ahead. You want me to go?
Yes, please. I'm listening to you. I'm trying to get you to talk.
Okay, so
Where were
I've
we last?
investigated pain before.
Uh-huh.
You were just saying that they're just sensations and nothing more than that.
Can you repeat that? I'm not hearing you clearly.
You were just talking about how the pain is just sensations and nothing more.
Yes.
So do you want me to continue with my question?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay, so I've investigated the pain before, and it seems like there is a tendency for it to not really move and just stay there for like half an hour, a very long time. And it doesn't seem like I'm making progress or like getting better at allowing it to be there or anything like that. So I guess maybe I was just doing it wrong.
Don't stay too long on it, but move away. Do the both sides of that. rather than just looking, to look for it for a while, get really good at it, know it well, but if it's not changing, then ignore it, go someplace else. Intentionally keep the mind off of it. See, in fact, if you can ignore it completely, to push it out of the mind altogether. That may be the part that you're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, is to push it completely out of the mind, because you've just looked at it. You know what it is. So now you just say, nope, stay out. Get out. I'm the boss here. You're not the boss. You cannot come back in right now. Sort of like putting the child in a corner, I suppose, with a dunce hat. And so that's the way to do it for a while, and then go back and inspect it again. You'll find that, in fact, it will begin to change, especially when you have these two states of mind going on. Because one is the quality of I am not in the state of hating this. I'm in the state of observation of it. And the second stage is, and now I'm the boss. Now I can ignore it. Now I can push it away and stay in that state for a while. And then we go back and we inspect it again, looking ever more closely.
Yeah, that sounds like a good approach. Like typically the pain would just continue being there and I would get kind of discouraged by it. Switching off
Yes.
be like the relaxation I need, I guess.
Is it possible for this leg pain to show up immediately upon sitting down? Or does this pain kind of creep up on you after a long period of time? Or does it suddenly appear at any particular time at all? Do you know that kind of information about it?
I would say typically earlier in the day, it would have a tendency to creep up. Like I could sit for like 20 or 30 minutes and be fine. And then it would maybe increase in intensity over that period of time. But then also later in the day, it can show up like basically, or like it'll show up 2 minutes into a sit. And I mean, to me, it just kind of seems like I'm stressing myself out throughout the day regarding different things, and I go to sleep and I relax, and it's good, but then I stress myself out throughout the day, and it gets worse again throughout the day.
Our connection is not good. I don't think I heard you correctly. Can you repeat some of that?
Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning. I was saying, well, you can tell me where to start.
Start with the bed. You were in bed. You had a good night's sleep or something.
Okay, so I can go to bed and relax, and the muscles, they'll calm down, and I'll wake up in the morning, do a sit, and I won't get pain until later on. But if I meditate like later in the day, the pain will show up like basically instantly.
Okay, so you're saying that something is happening throughout the day so that the muscles relax at night, but throughout the day, there's something that's happening that's causing more and more muscle possible tension?
Yes.
Yeah, looking for some stretching exercises, I think, would be valuable.
Right, yeah. I will look into that definitely.
That's what I would recommend is that this is something that's physical and needs to be looked at by someone that's not on Skype with you, but someone that could stand in a posture and say, do this.
Oh, you mean like physical therapy or something like that?
Most yoga people know exactly what to do. I mean, this is not, I'm not recommending go join a yoga session for the next 6 months, paying thousands of dollars. what I'm recommend is finding someone who knows how to help you relax those muscles in the back of your legs. And the yoga teacher knows exactly how to do that.
Okay, yeah. If you just meant yoga by that, I'm definitely on board with that. I was just going to say, like, the professional medical community doesn't really actually seem to have an answer to my problem.
You're right. Exactly. That's because that medical community spent too much time in an ivory tower and not enough time in a cave in India.
Yeah.
That seems to be the solution for almost all of the world's ills. If I could get Putin and Trump and and ExxonMobil's Rex Tillerman, I think his name, and put them into a cave, wouldn't the world be so much better off?
Hopefully they would not
put
be
all the billionaires into some cave. So anyway, do you have any more questions about the leg pain and whatnot? Because we've got it kind of covered.
Oh yeah.
But the important thing is that the real benefit of your sitting is not going to be the benefit that you get while it's on the cushion. The real benefit is going to be when you start taking the tools and techniques off of the cushion and start applying them throughout the day, whatever posture you're in. And I've got a whole list of stuff like that to do with you. But meanwhile, let's go through these questions. We've done question number 1 now. What's question number 2?
Okay, you answered probably a lot of those, so I don't need to talk about that. This one, controversial topic, but I haven't heard it talked about on your channel yet. And I've listened to a lot of your videos. So I feel like I have an issue with pornography, and supposedly there are a lot of, I don't know if it's true or not, but I kind of believe it, that there are a lot of benefits in avoiding the use of that. But it seems like hard to avoid. And then, like, if I use it, I feel bad and all that. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Wait a minute. What was that last thing you said?
That, like,
that you felt bad? Can you tell me more about that?
I would have a tendency, or I have a tendency of, like, you know, I would go a period of time of abstinence, and then I would end up using it, like, during a period of stress or something like that, or just strong craving. And yeah, and I would just feel really bad and think like my social skills have decreased and all of this stuff, and like my happiness has been sucked out of me.
Okay. Well, that's good insight. Congratulations, you're waking up. How many young men do we know that get their whole lives sucked right down that hole? Looking for something that they want and they can't have. Here's something very interesting about that kind of stuff creates a lot of dopamine. And the dopamine has the quality that after an intense amount of dopamine, the receptors for that dopamine and the tryptophan uptake that they talk about. I'm not really an expert on this, but it rots the receptors, or it damages them so that it takes more and more dopamine to get that same hit. And so what happens is that the young guy, he really likes what's going on, but the more he watches it, his hit of dopamine turns into a lust for more dopamine without getting it. And here's an example of that the psychologists have seen, and that is that monkeys and mice both will do this. I don't know if they've had any other animals, but basically the mouse will come and he will learn to push a button or touch a screen, and then he'll get a reward. And so he touches the screen again and he gets another reward. But then they start mixing it up, especially randomly within a number, a range, so that he has to hit it 2 times, and then the third time he'll get it. And then they'll have to do it more and more and more. And what happens is they can train those mice to the point that all they're doing is hitting that button, but they're not ever going to get another grain of food. Doesn't happen. But they can be trained that way. Well, that's exactly what happens within young men's mind. There's an old joke that was at the University of Michigan when I was there, and that is that they had they had rat mazes with cheese on them. They said, well, we need to do one for the students, so they built a big rat maze for the students, and they would put a $5 bill in it. The funny thing about it is, I don't remember what happened to that experiment, but even for years later, that the people would that building would get broken into. People were still looking for those $5 bills. So now you get the idea that once we get into the habit of doing something that gives us a reward, we will continue to do that, even though we're not getting any reward out of it.
So you're saying the opposite is true, which is staying away also increases the resistance to using it in the future.
Yes, you're saying that if you get away from it, then it doesn't gnaw on you so much to do it again.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. So maybe to think about, instead of saying no to it altogether, say, I'm going to start taking vacations. And when I'm doing it, I'm going to be doing it less. I'm going to go get that big hit. And then after I get that big hit, that's enough. Recognize your limit. Begin to wean yourself off of it. That's the way to do that. But I haven't made any value judgments about whether pornography is good or bad. I'm just talking about brain chemicals and habits and that kind of stuff. You're the one who's already determined it bad, and the reason that you did is you can recognize there's suffering in there. That you want the benefit from it, and you wind up with something else. And that's the real connection that you need to start seeing, is that connection between I want this and I wind up with that.
The thing that's made it really easy for me historically to avoid it is actually believing that it's, I don't know if this is correct or not, but actually believing all that dopamine, because I already knew the dopamine stuff, but believe it, I can stay away because I'm like, okay, it's not worth it. Like, it's not worth the cost. But then, like, at periods of time, I feel like I kind of lie to myself and, like, whatever, it doesn't really matter that much. It's not a big deal, just one time. So, yeah, I think having you tell me the dopamine stuff yourself is going to help me actually believe that I should stay away from it.
Well, as far as I know, it's hard science. I mean, they've done it over and over and over again. And pornography fits into the same class, just like drugs or any motivating reward system goes. We get into the habit of doing it, and then we want it to do it more and more and more, but we're not getting the benefit out of it.
I was thinking about how it's very easy for me to avoid alcohol and like even caffeine or whatever. For some reason, I would always put pornography like in a different class of thing. Like yeah, alcohol, that's definitely terrible. I should never do that. But porn, like, maybe it's okay. But probably if I mentally group it as just a straight up drug, like might as well be cocaine or alcohol, then it should be easier to avoid.
Actually, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but anything can become a drug. We can get hooked on anything. Happiness.
I guess that's true. Like you could get addicted to meditation, but I assume the thing to focus on is actually what are the outcomes of those behaviors, right?
The outcome of what?
The outcomes of those behaviors, like being addicted to meditation, would basically help the world because you could bring other people to meditation and stuff like that. But pornography, like you just get addicted to something that doesn't really produce anything useful.
Generally, those that I have known that have become addicted to meditation do not in any wise invite anyone to do it. They
Okay,
normally
I guess if you
stay.
use the strict definition of it.
Well, I'm talking about the guys who do it more than 14 hours a day.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, never mind.
Oh, I've been to Burma.
Yeah, that might be too much.
Yeah. There is such a thing as a good, but Liberace was right in a way. Too much of a good thing is wonderful.
Wait, what?
Too much of a good thing is wonderful.
What does that mean?
Well, you have to understand who was saying it. Liberace. That's a quote from Liberace. He was very famous in the 1950s. He didn't have that much money, but he was wealthy enough because he was very popular with old ladies. One of the world's most flamboyant poofters of the day. One of the things he did was he had a Rolls Royce that had how to say a convertible, not a hard top, but an open car. And he would ride out on the stage in this Rolls Royce, and then the lifts would hoist him into the air out of the car while he would hold his hands out like this. I mean, he was very much over the board showman. And that was his quote. Too much of a good thing is wonderful. Well, you see, that's exactly what the guys think when they're doing pornography. It's too much of this, if it's a good thing, then doing too much of it is wonderful. To overdo things all together, all the way.
So you're saying, in spite of him saying that, he was just basically living in delusion.
Well, mostly that's what happens. Yes. That even for those meditators sitting 14 hours a day, too much of a good thing is wonderful, so they think, but then they've got no life. There's even meditators who sit up all night. They don't even lay down to go to sleep. But that's no life at all. You don't want that. You want to be able to live and enjoy your life. So that's another example of just too much of a good thing. But the guys who are doing it think it's wonderful. And so that's the attitude that you can begin to take about everything, is that in fact, everything about the Buddha is always back to the issue of the middle path. Now, there's some discussion about what he meant by the middle path, but if you understand it correctly, the answer is everything. Everything has opposites. And the Buddha's way is somewhere in the middle. And so in the beginning, because he was teaching the five who had been following him around, doing both the meditation and the flagellation of the body, that he was pointing at the middle path is the path between these two extremes. That sitting in meditation all the time is one extreme, looking for sensual pleasures, looking for sensuality. And you're doing exactly the same thing that the jhana dudes do when you get enwrapped in that sensual pleasure of the pornography. And the other end of that stick is self-flagellation, which means to punish yourself or to feel bad. And the thing that was really amazing is in those days they thought oh, well, my life is already perfect because I'm not doing anything wrong, but I still have all of these problems in life. It must be old karma. Here, let me hurt myself to bring on that old karma and finish it all off, and then I'll be happy. Really? What's this about doing new actions is giving new results? Never mind the old stuff. You're not burning off old karma. You're just creating new suffering. And in a way, the porn does that too. But someplace in there is a balance. Everything requires a balance. Another example of that is killing animals. If you go to one extreme, then you're the Brahmin priests that are sacrificing animals, or the Levites. The kind of thing that Jesus didn't like when he threw the money changers out. It wasn't the money changers so much as the trouble, is the fact that it was the pigeons and the birds and the goats and all of the animals that are about to get slaughtered by the Levites. But the other extreme then would be the Jain, who are walking down their path with little brooms to sweep and make sure that there's no bugs to step on. That the real point is somewhere in the middle. The middle path is, yes, there are things like vermin. For instance, if you take antibiotics, isn't that killing? It is if you take it to the extreme that the Jains will take it. But the Buddhist path is a middle path. Yes, it is killing, and I want them little vermin out of here, and I want the ants out of the house, and I want the ticks. I want the ticks off the dogs, and I want the mosquitoes off the porch. And so we'll deal with animals at that level. That there are insects, and we have to deal with them. But one of the ways is we want to cover the food to make sure that the ants don't get into it. But we always live in a middle area, a gray zone, a place that doesn't take an extreme of one side or the other. And so this is the way to start looking at porn, because that's one of the things that's really easy to fall into the extreme on. So the way that I would recommend is find a middle path for yourself. Find a middle path. Just enough, just a dab will do you, they say. And that's the way to handle it. But always make sure that whatever you're doing in that regard, watch for the suffering that you're creating in your own mind. That's the issue. Watch what you're doing. Because if that little dab will do you, that second dab will mess you up. You got to make sure you see that. But we get into that state of I want more and I want more and I want more and I want more, and we get into that state of desire. And that's not healthy. But those that have tried to avoid their sexuality have often gone too far, made too many mistakes. Prostate cancer and choir boys are two issues that they have to deal with when they when they demand too much.
Well, here's one of my issues is like the first five precepts, like during retreat, the sexual misconduct precept includes abstinence, right?
In a retreat, it's generally done as a brahmacharya, ramani, sakabadam, samatiyame, as opposed to the actual precepts would be kame sumi chatarawe ramani, sakabadam, samatiyame. All right. One of them is the brahmacharya, means that I'm going to live above it all. Actually, the brahmacharya also has the quality of lokatra, or above the world. So a brahmacharya in this regard means living above the world, living as if you're aloof, or that you've got a noble mind, that you're not going into the world of sensuality and lust. The other one is kame sumi chachara, which means to abstain from the sexual misconduct, the kind of stuff that really gets people into trouble. Especially in the old days, going to a brothel was downright dangerous. Downright dangerous for everybody. STDs, because they didn't know about germs way back when.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of you want to have a virgin. Why? Because you don't want her to give you something. You want to give her something. You don't want her already pregnant. You don't want her polluted. And so, but nowadays that we've got modern medicine, those old mental concepts don't mean anything anymore. We've got birth control. We've got abortion pills. We got antibiotics. We got all kinds of things to take care of the various problems, including condoms. So there's a whole lot of things that solve the problems nowadays that in the old days they didn't have any solutions to those problems, and they had to be dealt with.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're saying that abstinence was important historically, but today it's not as important.
Not nearly as important. In fact, the subliminal stuff really begins to show. For instance, prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is very common among priests and monks who hold that in so tight, and there's a lot of magical beliefs around it. Because the thing of it is wanting it and then not letting yourself have it is a whole different world than being free from the desire.
Yeah.
And that's the work that needs to be done. But people don't do the right work to become free from it. And the way to become free from it is by seeing the suffering in it. And this is a very, very sticky issue. It's something that you'll be dealing with, and we'll talk about it again sometime. So let's not deal with the entire issue of sexuality right now and deal with this very small little corner of it called porn.
Okay.
Okay? And let's deal with that one. So that you begin to see, because it's actually just a microcosm, it's a hologram. Every little thing that you can see wrong with pornography winds up being exploded big time in the real world.
Yeah, that was basically, I was kind of wondering if that was I mean, I know that's part of the issue. So, like, you have the dopamine aspect, but then I also have, let's say, the negative effects that I observe after the fact. And I know there is not necessarily a physiological cause for all of that. Like, there's always some mental aspect of that where I'm saying, like, I was bad, that was bad, and like I know it's going to cause me to be not confident in social situations. So like maybe it's causing me to lose like 30% confidence, but like 70% is the mental part where it's like I was a bad boy and I should feel bad now.
Right. Well, we've got to deal with that, but one of the ways of dealing with it we've already started. The Buddha said it like this: is that if you abstain from bad behavior, you have two benefits. The first benefit is no remorse now, and the second benefit is no remorse later. And so what you're talking about here is that you're experiencing remorse. So we need to turn that around. And how we're doing it now is that first step is, okay, let's put a limit on this stuff. Let's do it only enough to the point that it hurts. And when it starts hurting, stop doing it. And so that threshold is going to perhaps be the threshold of regret. Or what you begin to do is you begin to actually see that, hey, wait a minute, I'm not getting the enjoyment out of this that I thought I was. Why am I doing this? Why am I looking at this? Why am I doing it? Why am I looking at this? When I already know that if I keep doing this, I'll feel bad. And the more I do it, the worse I'll feel. Isn't that the cycle you're in?
Yeah, so it's so simple. Like, if you don't want to have remorse, then just don't do it.
All right, so let's look at turning that around, and that is that, hey, I can become proud of myself by turning that around. I know that sounds weird. Okay, here's how we do that. In other words, you become pleased and satisfied that you're cutting back. And that the reason that you're cutting back is because there's less regret, there's less remorse. And because there's less remorse, you can be glad. Wow, I'm glad to get rid of that one. So every time you turn the porn off, you can say, wow, I'm really glad to get out of that. And start to become pleased with yourself rather than unhappy that you were doing it. Be pleased that you stopped. And when you start getting your dopamine hit from stopping the porn, that's how we turn it around. It's becoming pleased with, okay, enough of this. Stop it already. Ha ha, I'm glad that I stopped that. That was one too many cunts today after all. And so that's the way that you begin to do it. The other way, back to the point that I was about to make, and that is that you've seen them one, you've seen them all. After you see two of them, that's one too many.
I actually agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, they're all the same. Everyone's got one. Well, not everyone. Actually, about half the people have got one, and they don't care at all. It's the guys who don't have a cunt. They're the ones who want one so bad. But the ladies, they've all got one, and for them, it's nothing special at all. Keep it powdered, keep it dry, keep it clean, keep it healthy, keep it active. And other than that, there's nothing. But the guys, I gotta have. But when you recognize, oh no, wait a minute, they're all the same. Nothing special. You've seen them one, you've seen them all. Enough already. I've had enough today. And then you can begin to take pleasure. I can shut this thing down. I do not have to keep doing it over and over again. I've already had my hit.
Yeah, I think that's super important because I've noticed this tendency. Well, I just moved to Mexico, and I'm like comparing in my head basically the downsides of Mexico over Thailand. Like when I was in Thailand, I would complain about like all this thing and that thing, like the bananas. They would never have ripe bananas, and they're always like super green, and it would take a long time for them to ripen. And I'll be like, God, these bananas, I hate them. And then when I go to Mexico, I'll get good bananas. Now I have good bananas, but I'm like finding other things to complain about, and I don't have gratitude for the good bananas I have now. So you're talking about like I basically punish myself when I use porn, but never reward myself for not using it. And I'm noticing this whole aspect in my life where I basically look at the negatives of everything, but never have gratitude or reward myself or look at the positives and stuff.
Well, we need to start changing that around for everything then.
Yeah.
Stop feeling like a victim and start feeling like a champion, that you are in fact in charge of that porn. It does not run your life. Those pains in those legs do not run your life. They are not your boss. Or anxiety, which was what I was talking with Ronnie about. That anxiety is not your boss. It was, and it ran his life. It ran his life. Because we don't know it. But once we begin to see what's really going on, we can say, wait a minute, you're not the boss here. The pornography is not the boss. The leg pain is not the boss. The anxiety is not the boss. That you're bigger and tougher and stronger. You're a lion. You're a roar. You're big time. That little pain in the leg is nothing. I can ignore it completely. That porn is nothing. I can ignore it completely. I can put a stop to it. You see, actually, it's the same technique.
As Anapanasati?
Well, you either put a stop to the porn or you put a stop to the leg pain being your boss.
Yeah.
That the victim, the leg pain is the boss. The victim, the porn is the boss. For the victim, anxiety is the boss. For the victim, anger is the boss. But when you change that attitude, the Buddha's attitude, that's why attitude is the number 2 second item on the list of the Eightfold Noble Path. We got to get the right attitude of that. You're not a victim. You're not going to let that stuff manage you. We're going to watch it. We're going to see it. We're going to see the dukkha in it, and we're going to clean that mess up. And we're going to be really happy. Hi ho, hi ho. Off to work we go. Because it's a really enjoyable task to clean out one's own mind. All we need is the right attitude. And so that same attitude that we're talking about is the attitude for both of the leg pain and the dropping of the porn. Don't wallow in the misery and the suffering and the regret. Be proud enough that I can turn that stuff off. That's strength.
Yeah.
And that strength comes with success. And the success is I can turn it off. The success is I can ignore that leg pain. And this is much of what Anapanasati is all about, is that I can stay in a state of satisfaction. I do not have to fall into a state of dissatisfaction because of this, that, and the other thing. This porn, that leg pain, and that other anxiety in this case. And that's a great deal of what Anapanasati is all about. Being able to get into that state of happiness, get in that state of sukha. And from there, we can manage all of that. But out on you don't generally sit in meditation and do porn at the same time. I know. So it's got its benefits though. It's the same practice. That if you could practice dealing with the leg pain and turning that leg pain off and ignoring it, you can do the same thing on the computer. One dab will do you. And then you could say, all right, off you go.
So I have a quick question, and I'm pretty sure I
this
know the
is
answer to
something
this,
that's
but
not on the list, huh? Go ahead.
no, it's actually on the list. No, it is. It's I mean, as always, like the answers are always easy, but I really like to hear you say the answer because it makes me believe in it more. But yeah, there's a lot of like noise happening while I'm trying to sleep, and like my brain kind of like fights against it, and is like this noise is not allowing me to sleep. But I've noticed like if I decide like I don't care about the noise, I can go to sleep just fine. So let's say I'm lying down and trying to go to sleep. Should I just like keep going on Apanasati until I fall asleep? Like okay, I get bothered by the noise, and I'm like, okay, whatever, go back to the breath. Who cares about that?
But your intention is, your desire is that you want to go to sleep and you can't.
Right.
Okay. That's suffering. I mean, it is. When you want something you can't have, that's suffering. And
so are you
I'm
saying like, go ahead.
well, what I'm saying is stop wanting to go to sleep and enjoy the moment. And if you hear something, you can listen to it and be happy and satisfied. Oh, this is really nice. You can even say it like this: oh, nowhere to go and nothing to do for the next 8 hours. I can just lay here and enjoy myself.
So
And
even
all I
if I
have
have
to do
thoughts
to
about like,
pardon?
even if I have thoughts about like I'm not going to have enough sleep when I need to wake up in the morning for
Whenever
this
you have those
appointment.
kind of thoughts, say, get out. Get out. I'm enjoying the moment. I do not need thoughts about tomorrow and how I'm going to feel. I want to feel good now.
I like this answer.
Well, what happens is that you get really comfy and really cozy and really secure and really nudgy, and you kind of drift off into sleep, and you have a really good night. But if you want to go to sleep, sorry, that's not a good night. Especially if you want to go to sleep because you've got stuff to do tomorrow. And guess what you're thinking about right now is what you've got to do tomorrow. And here the mind goes, blah, 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 blah. The Buddha calls that burning by day and smoldering by night. And the easy way out of it is, never mind, I don't have to think about anything right now, not even going to sleep. There's no desire. I like this moment. This is really, really good. I'm under the covers and it feels really nice and warm and no place to go and nothing to do. And that's the way to spend the night. Give it a try. Stop wanting to go to sleep. Enjoy yourself instead.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that answer, but it seems really awesome.
Yeah, we get into a state of wanting things. We want, and now we're in a state of suffering, not getting what we want. Now we get worried about, oh, if I can't get to sleep, then I won't be good tomorrow, and I got all this work to do, and there are many different kinds of sleep, and the way that we want to spend sleep is to do it in its deepest level, not at the level of dreaming. And so if we go to sleep with something on our mind, more than likely what it is that we've got on our mind will stay on our mind while we're sleeping, only keeping us at a surface level of sleep. But if
Yep,
you can get
seen that
yourself into
happen.
a completely relaxed state of mind where there's nothing to do and no place to go and all is just so wonderful, that you just go right into a really deep sleep. Why they don't teach this in high school, I don't know. Is it that counterintuitive? You said it was something that you didn't expect.
Well, I think it was just a situation where I was identifying so strongly with the suffering, I wasn't able to see it properly and actually see the cause of the suffering was the desire to sleep. Like I was just like, the desire to sleep is something I absolutely need to do. I need to get it done right now. I need sleep, and there's no compromise.
All right. Well, that's 3 questions on the list. What's your 4th?
I don't think I actually have anything else.
Okay.
That was a lot of stuff.
Great. Well, we didn't. We just covered a couple of points.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Actually, we only covered 1 point. It can be boiled down to dukkha, dukkha nirodha, or dissatisfaction and satisfaction. Come into a state of satisfaction.
What does dukkha nirodha mean?
Dukkha nirodha means the same thing as the word sukha.
Okay.
And in Thai language, they have the word sukh. This is a common word. And it is exactly the opposite of the word dukh, a common word. Both of them come from the Pali, sukha and dukkha. And so in step number 6 of Anapanasati is sukha, to get yourself into a state of pleasure. And this is a training to be done. And we've mentioned several of those. In bed, get yourself into a state of sukha. With the porn, get yourself into a state of sukha. With that pain, get yourself into a state of sukha. Be a champion. Be the lion. Be satisfied with the way things are. What more is there if you're completely satisfied? What more is there if you're completely satisfied? Let's say the satisfaction is one thing and somehow enlightenment is something else. Well, if you were enlightened, then wouldn't you be satisfied? And if you were satisfied, then wouldn't that be this? I mean, if I'm not, if there is enlightenment and I'm satisfied, but now I've got to get enlightened, then I must be not satisfied in order to get up there to be enlightened. No, when I become enlightened, I am satisfied. And when I am satisfied, what else is there? It's not hard. It really is not hard. And yet the Western mind's got all of these strange ideas about what the Buddha taught. And what the Buddha taught was stop suffering and get yourself into a state of satisfaction. And when you do that completely, that means you're not a victim anymore. You're satisfied now. Victims always are sucking on something. Victims always want something. I'm the victim here. I need justice. I need this. I need a mommy. I need a God. I need relief. But when you're completely satisfied, then you're not in a state of need. And so that's the attitude change. That big attitude change is needed to become satisfied with the way things are. That I can stop that porn, and I'm satisfied that I could stop it. Just a dab will do you, and after that is just they're all the same. And why do I need to sleep? I could just lay here and enjoy the night. And leg pain, what is that? Out of here. You can come back later, but right now I'm not going to pay any attention to you at all. And this winds up being all the same attitude, all the same point of coming to that state of satisfaction. I guess you look satisfied right now. There's no more questions on that page.
Yeah, I have a lot of material to work with. Or you could say it's a little bit of a material.
Yeah, so little. It's not a big package at all. It's very little. Took us an hour and 20 minutes to say Dukkha, Dukkha, Nirodha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll finish.
Nope, that's everything. I really appreciate that, Dhammarato.
Excellent. I've enjoyed it too. Pleasure's
Great.
all mine.
Awesome. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. See you.
Yeah.